now she's moved here.
Professor Mary, I lost you. Yeah. Congratulations. I guess I'm with them, so I can't wait to see it. No, I don't. That's
Great job. Sarah, good job.
good marshalling there.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, for art?
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm thankful for.
All right. There's always that small group. Guys ready to run? Let's hit it. That's it. Okay. I think it's bye, everyone. Let's go. I guess.
Please be seated as Reverend Jackie Marquez, Dean of Religious and Spiritual Life, delivers the invocation and land acknowledgement.
Good morning. We gather in peace and joy as a community to celebrate the accomplishments of this graduating class. Let us share together, each in our own way, in a moment of reflection, prayer, and thanksgiving for the class of 2024. We come from many religious, spiritual, and philosophical traditions which speak to us, offering ancient guidance and strength. We are in the presence of our Creator, in the presence of our ancestors, and among friends. Sacred source of all that is good, beautiful, and true, we give thanks for the generous support and encouragement of family, friends, staff, faculty, and mentors who have brought each student to this day. We give thanks for knowledge acquired and experience gained. The last 4 years presented unexpected and unimaginable challenges for many of us. You brought us through them all, and for that we are deeply grateful. We pray that this graduating class makes decisions that leads them each to a life full of meaning and purpose. Bless their doubts and certainties. Bless their families and all who love them. Holy One, we ask that your gracious and loving presence be among us now as we gather to reflect and rejoice. We continue our celebration with the reading of our Wellesley College Land Acknowledgement. We acknowledge that Wellesley College is built on ancestral and traditional land of the Massachusetts people. We also recognize that the United States removal, termination, and assimilation policies and practices resulted in the forced settlement of indigenous lands and the attempted erasure of indigenous cultures and languages. We further acknowledge the oppression, injustices, and discrimination that indigenous people have endured and that there is much work to be done on the important journey to reconciliation. We commit to strengthen our understanding of the history and contemporary lives of indigenous peoples and to steward this land. We further recognize the many indigenous people living here today, including the Massachusetts, Wampanoag, and Nipmuc nations, who have rich ancestral histories in Wellesley and its surrounding communities. Today, their descendants remind us that they are still here, where they maintain a vital and visible presence. We honor and respect the enduring relationship between these peoples and this land, as well as the strength of indigenous culture and knowledge, the continued existence of tribal sovereignty, and the principle of tribal self-determination.
Thank you, Dean Marquez. On behalf of the trustees, faculty, staff, alumni, and our graduating seniors, I welcome you to the college's 146th commencement exercises. Members of the Red Class of 2024, we gather on this stunning and beautiful day to celebrate you, to praise all that you've accomplished, and to honor the deep connections you have forged that will last you a lifetime. We are here to mark with joy and pride one of the most important milestones in your life, and to send each and every one of you off into the world to make your difference. But that will be tomorrow. Today, here and now, carve out this moment from everything that is competing for your attention and cherish this achievement. You've earned it and you deserve it. Next, Whether you are with us on campus or watching today's ceremony on our live stream, let me welcome all the parents, families, friends, and loved ones, and of course, the Wellesley staff and our esteemed faculty. I share our students' deep gratitude for the many ways that you've helped them make this day a reality. You have tirelessly rooted for them, reminded them to use their time to learn all they can and to grow as individuals. And by example, you have inspired them. Students, please join me in a big thank you to all who have helped to make this day possible for you. Parents and families, I want to thank you especially. You have quietly and happily made sacrifices to ensure your student could not only be here, but to thrive here. And even before the day that they said, I want to go to Wellesley, you were selfless in preparing them to take this journey with us. Class of 2024, today we celebrate you not just for your major academic achievement, but also for a triumph of character. You began your college careers in the midst of a terrifying pandemic when all of us were struggling to make the best possible decisions with limited information. You persisted as the world experienced social, economic, technological, environmental, political, and geopolitical upheaval. Amidst it all, you stayed focused, gave your best in the classroom and beyond, tested your limits, built your strength, and discovered your power. Now you become part of a global community of Wellesley graduates, nearly 35,000 strong. They are eager to help you. They stand ready to lift you up so that you can lift up others in return. Like you, they want to be a force for creating change in the world. Together, you will help bring forward a future we can all be proud of. Now it's time to celebrate the profound bonds you share with each other and with Wellesley College. You will always be part of this community. Class of 2024, you did it. This is your moment, and we salute you. Congratulations. So now I'm pleased to invite to the stage co-presidents of the class of 2024, Ashley Liang and Sharon Park, to introduce our student speaker.
Thank you, President Johnson, for the introduction, and congratulations, class of 2024. I'm Ashley Liang.
I'm Sharon Park, and we are so honored to have served as your class council co-presidents this year.
As we celebrate today, we want to acknowledge all that we've overcome to reach this moment. Through all the ups and downs of these 4 years, it was through our collective resilience and determination that as a class we've managed to excel academically, grow professionally, and navigate meaningfully the complex discussions of identity, society, and our place within the world. We also want to express our deepest gratitude to everyone who has helped us grow. We could not have done it alone. Thank you to the faculty who have guided us, the families and friends who have supported us, and to each other for the community and memories we have formed. In celebration of these experiences, we're thrilled to welcome our 2024 student speaker who will share her story with the love she lived at Wellesley.
Haley Lee Burke is an economics major and English minor. During her time at Wellesley, she was a CAS RA for 2 years. When not working in the Office of Admissions as a tour guide, you could find Haley cashing out all of her flex points at the Emporium in the beginning of each semester, standing first in line for omelet Sundays, and watching Survivor in the BB living room. Those closest to Haley describe her as a friend who would always take the time to listen and lend a helping hand when needed. She is someone who brightened up your day whenever you saw her on campus, exemplifying the spirit of the Red Class of 2024. Please join us in welcoming Haley Lee Burke.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, okay. To the members of the Board of Trustees, President Johnson, distinguished guest Michelle Au, faculty, staff, friends and family, and fellow members of the Red Class of 2024. Good morning. I don't know if you remember, but our first year orientation theme was Love Wellesley. And while I loved it, I have to admit that I was so confused by its grammar. Love, comma, Wellesley. Why was there a comma? Was this a typo? Because there really doesn't need to be a comma there. Eventually, I realized that this was probably supposed to emulate a sign-off, as if Wellesley had just finished writing a letter or email welcoming us to campus. So, with today being our last day as students, I saw it fitting to finally write a letter back and respond, hopefully on behalf of everyone present today. So, dear Wellesley, we met online like so many relationships nowadays, and I fell in love with your enchanting buildings, magnificent lampposts, and your promise of belonging. You let me choose from 100 reasons to love you, and despite our concerning 133-year age gap, we felt perfect for each other. When we finally met in person during the pandemic, I think it's safe to say that neither of us were the normal versions of ourselves. You, for one, went through a controversial phase called the term system. Ugh. And I thought it was a good idea to cut my hair with a pair of old craft scissors. And so, after a year of bi-weekly exams and an unevenly cut bob that was way shorter than the trim it was supposed to be, I couldn't wait for things to go back to normal. As with any long-term relationship, there were even more challenges. I took classes, econometrics for one, where I felt like no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't succeed. I struggled to find my community, experienced friend breakups, and felt like I was just surviving college instead of living it. There were also cold walks of shame to the mods after Psy, Pendleton East, and Clapp were closed for renovation. But in hindsight, I realized that these were growing pains. And as much as I was navigating my place in the world and working to improve myself, so were you. As a whole, our good times spent together far outweighed the bad. I had professors who kayaked with me on Lake Waban and insisted I meet their cats over Zoom. They didn't even hate me when I'd send desperate emails at 11:58 p.m. begging for an extension, or when I shortly thereafter turned in an essay late. Instead, they gave me second chances I didn't feel deserving of and pushed me to succeed in ways I never would have otherwise. I also met a global, intersectional class of siblings who not only made this class feel like a home, but like a family. I'm constantly in awe of their unwavering willingness to put themselves on the line in order to stand up for their beliefs. Growing up, I often heard the joking saying that Wellesley students are always mad about something. And after 4 years, I'll admit that it's true, but I'll translate that to mean that Wellesley students know how to get things done. And fast, well, kind of fast. So with major accomplishments like free laundry under our belt, I'm proud of how we've ensured that Wellesley upholds its commitment to the accessibility and inclusion we were promised. Yeah, woo. At this point, it's hard to tell whether this should be a love letter or a breakup text. In a few hours, we'll have to leave campus, and before that time comes, I want to ask for a few promises from everyone under this tent. First, continue initiating the hard conversations. Be vocal and disagree loudly with the world around you when you see room for improvement. While we know that collective action is a prerequisite to making a difference, don't be discouraged from being the first voice in a room that demands change. Because no matter where you are, there may be countless generations of Wellesley alums nearby who are just as fed up as you are. Second, offer yourself the grace and love that you've so often given others. We are not conventional, nor do we tread a beaten path. Dedicate this time to celebrating your achievements and the profound resilience they required. Remember that no matter how many times you may have experienced imposter syndrome, you are finally in that seat. You belong here, and you always have. Before you leave, savor the red streamer strung about campus and say a long goodbye to your coveted single dorm room. If you're willing, seek closure with the friends that have come and gone and appreciate the hardships and silly memories we've shared in tandem. Third, and most importantly, walk slowly when it's your turn to cross the stage, make a funny face for the Jumbotron, and show off your hard-earned smiles. To the class of 2024, congratulations on this once-in-a-lifetime accomplishment. To my parents and to all our loved ones who uprooted their lives so that we could grow and flourish here, this ceremony is as much for you as it is for us. Thank you, we love you, and congratulations. And last but not least, to Wellesley. Thank you for giving me a space to learn, cry, and laugh my heart out. With scarlet love, comma, Haley Lee Burke.
Haley, thank you for that touching and heartfelt message, love letter. Next, it's a privilege to award the Pinansky Prize for Excellence in Teaching, which is presented each year at commencement to honor members of our faculty who have demonstrated excellence as educators. As the class of 2024 can attest, and as I can affirm, Wellesley's faculty are exceptionally dedicated and talented educators, researchers, scholars, artists, and mentors. They create classrooms, labs, and studios of experimentation and inspiration, of rigor and creativity. Our students and graduates alike never fail to share how a Wellesley professor made a profound difference in their lives and helped them achieve breakthroughs, both academic and personal. So to be singled out for this prize is a tremendous achievement and one that earns the admiration of the entire community. So from all of us gathered here today on campus, watching around the world, to the Wellesley College faculty, we thank you for your commitment to the education of the class of 2024. According to the rules for the prize, the finalists are selected by a student-faculty committee on the basis of nominations from students, faculty, and staff. I'd like to ask each faculty member to stand when their name is called and then join me on stage while I read excerpts from each of their citations. Alla Epstein, senior lecturer in Russian. Sharon Gobus, Associate Professor of Neuroscience. And Olga Churchkov, Professor of Economics. Professor of Economics and Wellesley Class of 2001. I will now read citations for each of our honorees, beginning with Professor Epstein. Senior lecturer in Russian, Alla Epstein not only teaches Russian language and culture with genuine passion, say her students, she transforms each class into a dynamic community of learners. Her students praise her for creating all her own lessons, centering her instruction in enthusiasm and fun, and eschewing rote learning. For example, her students produce a play entirely in Russian and perform it for the Russian department. As one student discovered in her class, learning a language is not about staring at a textbook, but about pushing yourself to get better at communicating with others and gaining knowledge of a new culture. Students also describe Alla Epstein as attentive, brilliant, and a supportive mentor. In her courses, says one, I am learning what it means to be kind, compassionate, and curious. For building a rich and caring culture, for her creative pedagogy, and for her generosity of spirit, it is an honor to present Alla Epstein with the Anna and Samuel Panansky Teaching Prize. I will now read from Professor Gobus's citation. Sharon Gobus, Associate Professor of Neuroscience, equips her students with a deep knowledge of the human brain, and she also encourages them to believe in themselves and find their voices. Students call her classes continuously inspiring and say that she motivates them to learn more and work harder. With equal excitement, they describe how Professor Gobus prepares them to excel beyond the discipline, imparting skills for teamwork, leadership, and how to craft effective arguments. One student sums it up this way: Professor Gobus's honest and constructive feedback has shaped me into a more confident individual who is no longer afraid of public speaking or of taking the initiative when it comes to experimental design, critiques, and voicing my own opinions. For teaching students skills that will help them succeed in any field, for supporting them as they test their limits, and for instilling courage, it is an honor to present Sharon Gobus with the Anna and Samuel Panansky Teaching Prize. I will now read from Professor Cherchkov's citation. For Professor of Economics, Olga Cherchkov, Wellesley class of 2001, teaching quantitative skills and challenging concepts is only one of her goals. Her students say she's also preparing them for the future and to meet the challenges of the gender inequality they study. She urges her students to take pride in their hard work. In the words of one, Professor Cherchkov reminds them that they are talented young people with so much potential that they should never forget to take credit for their work, and they should feel beyond qualified to seize opportunities. As an instructor, another student says, she fosters intellectual curiosity, cultivates critical thinking, and empowers students to apply what they learn to the real world. She also teaches them to become active participants in their own learning journey. For her support and mentorship, for connecting economics to her students' lives in meaningful ways, and for being a beacon of inspiration it is an honor to present Olga Churchkov with the Anna and Samuel Panansky Teaching Prize. Congratulations again to our 2024 Panansky Prize winners. Thank you. You can return to your seats. Next, it is our tradition at commencement to announce the names of faculty being recognized with new appointments to endowed chairs. Today, we recognize 7 faculty members. An appointment to an endowed chair is a significant milestone in the academic life of a professor. It recognizes scholarly distinction and honors service to the college and to one's profession. I will ask these faculty to stand and remain standing so that we can congratulate them. Please hold off your applause until I've read the names of all of these distinguished faculty members. Rebecca Bedell, Margaret Clapp, Class of 30, Distinguished Alumna, Professor of Art. Courtney Coyle, Stanford Calderwood Professor in Economics. Sue Hong, the inaugural holder of the Diane Silvers Ravitch Class of 60, Professor of Public Education and the Common Good. Vanya Klepitz-Tizere, Teresa Mull Malarkey, Associate Professor in Biological Sciences. Courtney Marshall, Cresa Family Assistant Professor in Neuroscience. Mary Kate McGowan, Virginia Onderdonk, Class of 29, Professor in Philosophy. And Jay Turner, William R. Keenan, Jr., Professor of Environmental Studies. Congratulations. Today, we also honor our faculty who are retiring this year. Their years of service have been marked by selfless dedication to their students, dynamic collaboration with their colleagues, and their unswerving commitment to providing a transformative impact as teachers and mentors, touching the lives of generations of students. Along with their many decades of service to the college, they have made significant and lasting contributions in instruction, research, creative work, critically advancing scholarship and discovery in their areas of study. Though we will miss them, they will always be part of our community. With that, it is my great honor to recognize these faculty members who have all distinguished themselves and served the college with excellence. Retiring faculty, please stand while I read your names, and everyone, please hold your applause till the end. Selwyn Cudjoe, Professor of Africana Studies, 38 years of service. Bonnie Dix, Para-Associate Professor of the Practice, 37 years of service. Allison McIntyre, Virginia Onderdonk, Class of 29, Professor of Philosophy, 36 years of service. James Patterson, Professor of French and Francophone Studies, 28 years of service. Dan Sickle, Stanford Calderwood Professor of Economics, 13 years of service. Glenn Stark, Professor of Physics, 37 years of service. Marie-Paul Tronvouillet, Senior Lecturer in French and Francophone Studies, 37 years of service. Paula Zeitlin, Senior Music Performance Faculty in Jazz, Violin, and Viola, 25 years of service. You have our deepest gratitude for your many years of service and for the profound impact you have had on your students and on this community. Thank you to each of you. Class of 2024, now I have the distinct privilege of introducing our commencement speaker, Michelle Au, class of '99. A path-breaking public servant, a physician, and a principled and compassionate leader. Dr. Au is a member of the Georgia House of Representatives and previously was a member of the Georgia State Senate, where she was that body's first East Asian member and first Asian woman. She is also an anesthesiologist in Atlanta and worked on the front lines during the COVID-19 pandemic. It was in her role as a physician that Michelle saw the failings of the public health system. Unlike many, she decided to do something about it. So she ran for office to bring greater equity and access to health care. And she's been doing just that. Michelle's success as a legislator has been in part due to her commitment to reaching across the aisle. Working with Republicans enabled her to make significant progress on the issue of gun violence by focusing on its impact on children's health. She was named the 2022 State Legislator of the Year by both Everytown Moms Demand Action and the Georgia chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics. A self-described proud second-generation Chinese American, Michelle is a vocal champion of Asian American and Pacific Islander rights and concerns. She helped form and is the chair of Georgia's bipartisan General Assembly AAPI caucus, the largest state AAPI caucus in the continental United States. And as all of this wasn't enough, she is the mother of 3 children and the author of This Won't Hurt a Bit and Other White Lies, My Education in Medicine and Motherhood, a memoir. At Wellesley, Michelle wrote for the Wellesley News, and her comics to this day are legendary, and she also served in college government. She earned her medical degree from Columbia University's Vagelos College of Physicians and Surgeons, and she holds a Master's of Public Health from Columbia's Mailman School of Public Health. Michelle exemplifies the Wellesley spirit, from her leadership to her creativity to her willingness to serve her patients, her constituents, and her community. I know her life of civic purpose will inspire our graduates. Please help me welcome Michelle Au.
Good morning, graduates. I always have to move the microphone down first thing because I'm short. So the good news is, there's good news coming. There's only a few more speakers between you and the diplomas you have worked so hard to earn. The bad news is, one of those speakers is me. I know. So to start, I'm going to tell you one story about my Wellesley commencement that I probably shouldn't, but here goes. When I graduated from Wellesley, my parents drove up from New York to watch the ceremony, right? So they sat through the whole procession, everyone coming in, they clapped politely, and they listened to all the speakers. So that year they gave out the diplomas in alphabetical order by last name, right? So my last name begins with an A. So they watched all the way up until I got my diploma and walked off the stage. Then, like the second I got off the stage, they ran across Severn's Green to that tent that I can see right over there, over to where the lunch was being set up, basically. And they just like immediately started eating, figuring they had at least half an hour of all these names before we were done, right? So those of us with Asian parents, maybe a few in here, understand this brand of ruthless efficiency, right? So it's like, hurry up, we gotta pack up the car and we gotta drive. I brought this Tupperware, put some in the car for later, we don't have any time. Anyway, don't do what my parents did. I promise, there will be cheese cubes enough for all when we are done. So much cheese. So I came to Wellesley around the turn of the century, which is, I say that because it sounds more fancy than saying I attended school here in the 90s, right? And I probably shouldn't tell you this either, but here goes. It feels deeply unfeminist to tell you this, but one of the reasons I applied to Wellesley back then was that I had been dating a Harvard student. Uh-oh, yikes. So when I got accepted, I thought, all right, my life is totally set because this is gonna work out great, right? So obviously we broke up like the second I got accepted. That's how that goes in life. But what that meant was that when I got to Wellesley, unencumbered by the expectation of who I was supposed to be relative to someone else, I got time and space to figure out who I wanted to be for myself. So when I got here, I wanted to try everything, right? Even all the way back then, I knew I only had 4 years in this rare, special place. Right? And that once I graduated, I would never have a chance again to be a Wellesley student, right? So I tried a bunch of stuff, like I rode intramural crew, right, dorm crew. Looking at my brawny, chiseled physique, I'm sure many of you already guessed that I either rode crew or played rugby, obviously, right? Eventually, when it became clear that I was better at like yelling things than I was at rowing, I coxed intramural crew better. Fit for my skills. For 3 years, I was the cartoonist for the Wellesley News. I did that thing. Between that and taking organic chemistry with Professor Miwa, this ensured that I was covered with pencil smudges and eraser bits for most of my time here at this school. So thanks for that, guys. I acted in a play, and I tried out for an improv comedy troupe that we had at the time. Two things that I was so embarrassingly bad at that I still die a little inside when I think about it. Moving on, I served on Res staff as House President, and I ran for college government cabinet, thinking, well, I was gonna be a doctor, right? So this would surely be my first and last foray into the world of politics. As you can probably tell, I was wrong about a lot of things back then. But that's okay, right? Because the thing about Wellesley is that it created a space for me to not be good at things, right? And not be right all the time, right? It's okay to fail. It's okay to question yourself. It's okay to be wrong, and it's okay to admit out loud that you were. But in creating that space, Wellesley encouraged me to say yes to things, even when they were scary. Right? And saying yes to things is hard because actually the easiest thing in the world is to say no. Why is that? Well, because after you say no, you don't have to do anything else, right? No means you think the issue is settled. No means you think the conversation is over, right? But yes is almost always harder because it invites the question that follows, and that is, what's next? And that's what today is about. Commencement is about what comes next. So what happened next for me after Wellesley is that I went to med school, right? And some of you may be thinking, well, of course you went to med school, Michelle Au. You are Asian. And I want to push back on that like a little bit because that's a stereotype, you guys. It's a stereotype. Because some Asian people also go to law school or become engineers. So, let's get real, guys. Come on. Asian jokes. Always funny. I can do that. Now, There are graduates in the audience who will also be going to med school or into an allied health field, and I want to reassure you that all your hard work at Wellesley was worth it, right? Because someday, maybe 9 or 10 or 15 years from now, after med school and after residency and after fellowship and after your stint in research, you will finally get a real adult job. Right before you die of old age. So one thing that brings people to medical school, and Dr. Johnson knows this is a trope, but it also happens to be true, is that med students want to help people, right? They want to help people and communities live healthier lives. But one thing that most med students realize pretty early on in their training is that the majority of the factors that make our patients sick are clearly outside our ability to treat at the bedside, right? So I'm a practicing anesthesiologist, and every single day I can give my patients insulin, or transfuse platelets, or treat their pain, or defibrillate their hearts when they stop beating. But by the time those patients get to me, if they can get to me at all, it's usually too late to fix lots of the things that made them sick in the first place, right? These obviously include things like access to health insurance or the prices of medications, right? But they also include broader things that we like to call these social determinants of health, right? So these are things like economic opportunity, public safety and violence prevention, food, housing, and also fittingly for today, access to a quality education. And the fact is that improving those factors can enhance the health of our communities far more than anything I can do within the four walls of the hospital. So people often ask me why a doctor would ever run for office. What I'd ask instead is, why don't more doctors run for office? At my med school commencement, we all stood and recited the Hippocratic Oath, the first part of which reads, "First, do no harm," right? We've all heard that. Often people hear this, "first do no harm," and they think immediately about active harms, right? Like, a medication error, wrong side surgery, accidentally transecting the aorta, ooh, don't do that, it's bad. But there are passive harms too, right? There are the harms of inaction. And I don't think doctors should abdicate the responsibility we have to our patients by refusing to serve where we are needed. So I don't mind telling you that when I first got elected to the Georgia State Senate in 2020, I did not know what I was doing. I don't mind telling you that because that's exactly how I felt when I started my clinical rotations in med school. As a third-year med student, and some of you will be there, sooner rather than later, any day I could find the bathroom and remember the login to check my patient's labs, that was a good day, right? But like in med school, as a first-term legislator, I knew that I wanted to get better, right? And I knew I couldn't do this work alone. I also recognized that as a member of the minority political party in Georgia, anything I wanted to get done, I was going to have to work with people who disagreed with me on many, many things, right? But while we disagreed about our methods, I found we could often agree on the goals, right? And working back from those shared goals is the best and really the only way to get things done. So, in the great state of Georgia, my conservative colleagues and I do not agree on passing legislation to regulate guns. That's understating things rather dramatically, right? Some people wouldn't even talk to me because my position on gun safety made anything that came out of my mouth on the issue a complete non-starter, right? But I found that something we do agree on is wanting children to be safer, right? Because come on, who doesn't want that, right? How do you refuse to work on that? Gun violence is currently the #1 killer of children and teenagers in this country. And working back from that shared goal of keeping children safer, I was able to advance a bill I very deliberately named the Pediatric Health Safe Storage Act, right? I gave the bill that particular name because I wanted to make clear that secure gun storage was not a political issue, but a public health issue, right? And an issue of protecting kids. Pediatric health is something we can agree on, right? Children's safety is something we can agree on. And because we took that approach. In 2023, the Pediatric Health Safe Storage Act became the first substantive gun safety legislation to be heard in a Georgia House subcommittee in over 6 years. Find where you agree, then work backwards, right? Later, when it became clear that our conservative colleagues, bless their hearts, did not think we should make it harder for toddlers to find and fire loaded weapons, I tried to find something else we could agree on, right? And it turns out that something that Republicans really like is being able to pass a tax credit during an election year. So I drafted the Safe Storage Tax Credit Act, which offered up to a $300 tax credit for purchase of firearm securing equipment like gun safes or trigger locks. Because here are two guiding principles of public health. First principle, the lever arm of public health is prevention, right? We seek, for example, not just to do more open heart surgery, we seek instead to prevent patients from developing heart disease. Similarly, our goal shouldn't be to just prosecute gun owners when kids get shot, right? Our goal should be preventing kids from getting shot in the first place. Second principle. Second principle, the goal of public health should be to make it as easy as possible for people to do the right thing. Right? This is why your car beeps at you when you forget to put on your seatbelt, right? This is why we offer flu shots in the supermarket and at schools. This is why we bring blood donation drives right into the lobby of your workplace. Giving gun owners a tax credit for buying safe storage equipment makes doing the right thing easier, right? That's how we get to yes. Find where you agree and then work back from that. So a version of the Safe Storage Tax Credit Act passed nearly unanimously out of the Georgia State House this past March. I'm also proud to note that 6 Republican colleagues signed on as lead sponsors for this bill promoting safe gun storage in an election year in Georgia. I know. Because even when we disagree, there are common goals we can identify. And so when we allow ourselves to eschew absolutism and interrogate our assumptions, we can move forward and do good work together. That is what my career in medicine taught me about politics. That and the importance of good hand washing. So we're almost done here, right? Not almost done with this graduation ceremony, though we are. Don't worry, it's okay. Much to the relief of your hungry parents who are already mentally packing the contents of your dorm room in the back of your car. I see all these dads looking at their watches. I can see you. I'm here, right? But I mean, you're almost done here at Wellesley, right? The rest of your college career can now be counted not in years or in months, but in minutes. What will you take with you? What will you remember? I don't dare give you too much advice because what do I know, but I will ask you to do one thing. Remember who you are in this moment. You in this moment, and who is that exactly, right? Well, you're moments away from getting a pretty important and frankly pretty expensive degree. That's for starters, right? Because of that, you are proud, as you should be. You are excited, which you should be too, and you're maybe, a little bit nervous. Do you feel ready? Yeah. Who feels ready? Who feels ready? Okay, all right. Some of you do. Most of you don't. Either reaction or both at the same time, that's okay, right? Because the most important thing about you today is that you are still idealistic. Right? I hope at least that even at the end of this long process, you have managed to retain the idealism without which an institution like Wellesley could not exist. Right? So remember who you are in this moment. Now, cynics, and you may know a few of them, will sometimes speak of idealism as though it's a bad thing. right? Like it's a weakness. But I'm going to tell you this right now. Idealism is never a bad thing. And idealism seasoned with experience is maybe one of the very best characteristics any leader can have. Remember who you are in this moment. You are a Wellesley student on the cusp of doing great things, right? Some of those great things will be big. The majority of them will be much, much smaller. But make sure they stem from who you are in this moment, someone with the energy, the idealism, and the work ethic to not just, as the school motto goes, make a difference in the world, but to make a different world. Cynicism is a protective adaptation, right? I see it in both my jobs all the time. It's a shell that people build around themselves after they feel that they have worked too hard, seen too much, been burned too many times to care anymore, right? But don't become that person, okay? Don't be the cynic. Even when it's hard, find the places where you can agree. Say yes to things, and then always ask, what's next? Be ready for everything you think you know right now to change. Listen, learn, allow yourself to be surprised. And always remember who you are in this moment. What's next? Honestly, I don't know. But let's go find out together. Congratulations to the class of 2024 and to the people who love you. You have earned this. And now it's time to roll up your sleeves and get out here and join the rest of us because we have a lot of work to do. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Representative Au, for truly, truly an inspiring message. And congratulations again to our graduates. We know that each of you will make important contributions in your chosen fields. All of us need your passion, your novel ideas, and your strong belief in creating a better world. But as you take your superb education and begin applying it to the world's challenges, I hope you will not only question authority, as you've done here, year in and year out, I thought you'd like that. I hope you will learn to question your own authority on the road to the truth. I think of an example offered recently by Professor Pat Berman, our Theodora L. and Stanley H. Feldberg Professor of Art. She showed her history of photography class a photo of Pope Francis wearing a big, stylish white puffer coat with a large, sparkly crucifix. She asked the class what the photo meant, and she received many extremely thoughtful answers about what His Holiness was trying to signal. Not a single student, however, suggested that the photo might not be genuine. It was a fake, generated by the AI art tool Midjourney. However, even when there are no deep fakes involved, our intuitive responses to a situation can often be faulty. Nobel Prize laureate Daniel Kahneman, whose research focused on the psychology of economics, helped us understand that we have two brain systems. System one, which thinks fast and where the conclusion comes first and the arguments follow, and System 2, which thinks slowly and arrives at its conclusions carefully and with effort. System 1, the evidence suggests, is gullible and biased to believe, while System 2 is in charge of doubting and unbelieving. Doubt is a powerful force, even in a world that rewards confident certainty. I would urge you to use your System 2 and to lead with questions whenever you can. The world is complex, and it is so important of people of goodwill to acknowledge that. What I'm arguing for is intellectual humility, or the willingness to admit that one's own knowledge may be imperfect or incomplete. This quality does not receive a lot of praise in the momentum-driven, boastful culture around us, where social media limits of 280 characters or 60 seconds reward snappy brevity and sloganeering. Sometimes saying, "I don't know," or "I need to study this more deeply before I express an opinion," is seen as a sign of weakness. But in almost every field, intellectual humility characterizes the true inventors, the pioneers, and artists, as well as the most esteemed scholars and beloved leaders. Intellectual humility has both an individual and a social element. For all of us, and I speak from my own experience, it is deeply intertwined with our own ability to continue acquiring knowledge, to continue to grow. The people who want our partisanship generally try to compel our belief in a simplistic narrative. We are, however, much more likely to arrive at the truth if we take the time to study a situation and absorb the chain of events and differing perspectives that have contributed to it. Intellectual humility is the very essence of the humanities, since in practice, they require the ability to see and empathize with different points of view. Our Wellesley Humanities faculty recently received a highly competitive Mellon Foundation grant that will unite our many humanities departments around 3 goals. One of them is showing students how the humanities discover and add meaning to our world and allow them to change the world for the better. I know our graduates are ready to bring the disciplined curiosity that they developed here to bear on the greatest questions of our day. And clearly, intellectual humility is absolutely essential in the sciences and medicine. In fact, it is the only way that we make meaningful progress. The costs of intellectual arrogance are extremely high, and I think of my own field of medicine, and specifically cardiology, where for years the medical establishment believed that women didn't suffer from heart disease to the same extent as men, when it actually is the leading cause of death for women. And because heart disease presents differently in women than in men, women are still undertreated today. Studies confirm that when we tend to overestimate our own knowledge, and we tend to overestimate our own knowledge, and we are all subject to confirmation bias, to seeking the evidence that validates that we already think that we know. But discovery is often the product of following evidence that doesn't fit what we've been taught, that may not even fit our own deeply held beliefs. As a graduate student, astrophysicist Nergis Mavalvala, class of '90, who today is Dean of Science at MIT, was warned off the LIGO project in its early days, the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory. That's what LIGO stands for. Her peers considered it a career-ruining, crazy idea. The project was intended to directly observe gravitational waves, which had been predicted by Albert Einstein. But direct attention was thought to be absolutely impossible because an instrument would have to be built to measure an effect 1,000 times smaller than a single proton. Nergis has said that she herself couldn't wrap her head around the possibility, but she didn't allow that snap judgment to stop her. The idea of building tools to push the frontiers of measurement by so many orders of magnitude was exciting, and so was chafing against conformity. So she joined LIGO. She was not only instrumental to the ultimate detection of gravitational waves, but she helped to open up a whole new way to conduct astronomy. So I urge you to embrace intellectual humility, not just for your own sake, but for the sake of the world around us. This is an uneasy world at the moment, with conflicts and tensions between nations and tensions within nations that threaten democracies around the globe. Some countries, including this one, seem to be splitting into factions, with political disagreements becoming cultural and social disagreements. As a result, the possibility of finding common ground, even with our neighbors, is becoming vanishingly small. Here in the United States, a Pew survey from 2022 found that the vast majority of Republicans believe Democratic policies are hurting the country and vice versa. What's worse, however, is that these harsh judgments have migrated from policies to people, with overwhelming and increasing majorities in both parties viewing the members of the other party as closed-minded, dishonest, and immoral. If you no longer trust the honesty and integrity of the other side, there can be no progress, no compromise, and no negotiation. Civic participation becomes all about adhering to the dogma of the group. And only the rarest of political leaders, such as Representative Au, work towards bipartisan agreement. In a democracy where we share power with people with competing ideas, change becomes almost impossible. But none of us is merely the sum of our positions. All of us deserve to be seen and acknowledged in the fullness of our humanity. And it is in that humanity that hope for common ground lies. Here at Wellesley, we've encouraged you to become your own most authentic selves. We've also helped you to learn to communicate across differences of all kinds, both in the classroom and through the residential curriculum, designed to help you understand the value of engaging with people whose perspectives are unlike your own. Managing disagreement with civility is one of the most important skills that anyone can learn. In my own experience, the greatest adventure in life is other people. Don't cut yourself off from the adventure by judging them too quickly or subscribing to a cartoonish view of who they are. Assume they are as complex as you, and if you hope to persuade them, you will never succeed if you don't begin from a position of respect. Class of 2024. Class of 2024, the world truly needs you. We need you to help us move beyond the binary views that dominate our public discourse towards a deeper understanding of the complexities that one hopes for solutions. We need you to cultivate a bit of skepticism about the received wisdom in your field and to follow your curiosity in your own work, because that's how progress happens. We need you to help us knit together our frayed civic life with willingness to listen to others and to work with them on shared goals. We need, above all, your patience, your kindness, your thoughtfulness, and your ability to review and to see challenging situations through the eyes of love. I cannot wait to see the world you shape. Provost Shannon will now present the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
In the commencement program, we have listed awards and prizes earned by many of our seniors. Although we will not read these honors as we call names for diplomas, we draw the attention of families and friends to this list and invite you to share our pride in the many achievements of these students.
Will the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts please rise?
Madam President, it is the privilege of my office to present to you, on behalf of the faculty of Wellesley College, the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
By the authority of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, vested in the Board of Trustees, and by them delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Bachelor of Arts and admit you to all the rights, dignities, and responsibilities of that degree.
Oasis Soleil Aguayo. Ariana Aguilar. Dara Aguilar. Mariam Ahmed. Nedar Alawaude. Marilyn Alberto. Raquel Alegría. Dulce Milagros Alemán. Aniko Lily Mingxing Alexander. Michaela Silvana Almonte. Melinda Ilag Alviar. Marina Andreadis. Emma Francis Andrew. Jocelyn Rose Andrews. Anna Alessandra Apilado. Alexandra Asak. Chantel Bailey. Ria Balachandran. Deborah Temescan Banqueta, Caitlin Ban, Julian Orlando Berriere, Astara Basti, Addison Bauer, Helen Young Bauer, Liesel Bauer, Jess Bazakis, Lisbeth Becerra Davila, Daniela Becerril Rosas Juarez, Ellie Michaela Beck, Ida Astrid Dorothea Beckett, Sasha Behar, Ingrid Bell, Annette Abigail Bellman, Daisy Benitez, Josephine Ray Burla, Alicia Jacqueline Berube, Alekia Bahut, Leslie Blass, Lorelei Michelle Blau, Aislinn Trinity Bohart, M. Botsevalis, M. Boxer, Kayla Brand, Eleanor Mackenzie Braun, Isabella Marie Brunette, Julia Emerson Buckner, Alexandra Catherine Kahn, Shimin Tsai, Kai? Mary Grace Calabro. Sorry. Ka-Wing Kelly Cow. Eve Kaplan. Rachel Therese Carruthers. Catherine Benton Carey. Tekla Elaine Carlin. Kaya Saracides Crosby. Iris Cessna. Olivia Cha. Ji-Yoon Che. Clara Chambers. Yik Seo Chan. Arundhati Chandrasekhar. Su-Bin Chang. Annette Joyce Chow. Apurva Chauhan. Amelie Ray Yan Chen. Elizabeth Chen. Florence Chen. Grace Chen. Jane Chen. Mengting Chen. Summer Chen. Wen Yu Chen. Cherith Chen. Tianyu Amanda Chung. Adrian Chung. Amanda Chung. Alyssa Choi. Elizabeth Choi. Habiba Janati Chowdhury. Alexandra Vivian Chua. Taun Joyce Chung. Haley Paishon O'Hara Chung. Isabella Hadjin Chung. Elena Comeyas. Korn Cook. Tiffany Corprew. Coral Mo Crossland. Caitlin Elizabeth Crowley. Isabella Mercedes Cruz. Catherine Yuyen Dalton. Erico Eleanor Darcy. Katrina Fatima Darwich. Faven Dawit. Anna Julia Daza Walter. Nicolette Carolyn Song Decker. Eleanor DeClean. Kira Denali Dia Lewis. Shelby Virginia Dibler. Liz Malin de Jesus Sanchez. Laura de la Doucette. Maria Jose del Granado. Melissa Damaku. Alexandra Gabrielle Dennis. Molly Elizabeth Desimoni. Jordan Devere. Audrey Jane DeMarco. Fatima Jalalova. Christina Dominguez. Linda Dominguez Saavedra. Biane Alejandra Douglas. Angela Denise Douglas. Alice Burke Dricker. Georgiana Elizabeth Ducey. Helena Eich. Farida El Gaderi. Jennifer Enriquez. Caroline Esposito. Carolina Estrella Alvarez. Gracie Lee Evans. Zandria Marie Evans. Jennifer Fan. Tianxin Feng. Muzu Fong. Rebecca Fang. Thea Monroe Feldgoys. Emma Bess Feldman. Emily Feng. Hannah Nicole Manto Fernan. Remy Catherine Fernandez. Givenchy Amelia French. Gina Maria Padaihog Fiore. Bryn Reagan Flanagan. Isabel Mary Flessus. Stephanie Flores. Maria Flores. Lidovai Floresbos. Emma Marie Folkley. Anna Lee Fu. Elena Kate Foster. Buana Nessa Francois. Sophia Young Frank. Emma Joan Frazier. Ellie Jane Freto Sweeney. Anne Elizabeth Freeman. Clara Fu. Amy Fung. Alondra Brianna Galindo. Corinne Isabella Gallagher. Isabella Maxine Galm. Janet Garcia. Joelle Alexandra Garcia. Sarah Elizabeth Garcia. Charlotte Shori Gebhard. Paige Jordan G. Ikra Ghaffar. Chelsea Gichuki. Emily Gill. Christelle Gillot. Michaela Ireland Glanville. Lily Godinez. Carrie Gokimori. Zoe Maya Golden. Rosemary Diana Goldstein. Cynthia Arely Gomez Gallegos. Lucy Gonzalez. Paula Gonzalez Acero. Yesenia Gonzalez. Kay Gonzalez Ramirez. Caitlin Maressa Gordon. Rhea Michelle Govias. Phoebe Grace Grandy. Anna Charlotte Myung-Kyu Greenthal. Grace Griffin. Connie Gu. Stella Gu. Ulu Gu. Shalale Gunal. Tarishi Gupta. Lucia Shawa Gureri. Sahar Habibzai. Anya Hanocek. Catherine Hanna. Brittany Jasmine Hanston Monteroso. Maheen Maimuna Huq. Bernadette Josephine Hargrove. Lena Hassan. Ash Jia He. Aspen May Helgeson. Charlotte Wade Henry. Sonia Marisa Hernandez. Sofia Hernandez Santijan. Sarah Hickey. Phaedra Valeria Hersbrunner Plank.
Hannah Esther Hirsch. Victoria Ho. Jillian Hodgden. Madeline Kai Hosel. Daisy Mabel Hollyfield. Lana Honsharuk. Fia K. Honey. Hei Rin Hong. Tiffany Ortega. Tazrayan Hussein. Melanie Siobhan Howard. Maggie Shu. Hu Karo. Rachel Hu. Xiao Xiao Shelley Ho. Amanda Huang. Emmett Huang. Lucille Humphrey. Lila Anika Hurd. Charlotte Elizabeth Hyun. Emma Hu Illich. Alyssa Ng. Michiru Ishikawa. Michika Ito. Madeline Jackson. Catherine Bess Jacobs. Faiza Jalil. Deborah Jang. Kara Lloyd Jenkins. Chelsea G. Jasmine G. Nan Jiang. Carlene Miranda Jimenez. Vivi Cristina Jimenez Cabral. Tanya Jimenez. Chi Shin Jin. Alice Chalmer Johnson. Jamie Elizabeth Johnson. Cecilia Alexandra Johnsrud. Evan Jones. Bella Jung. Lyra Kalajian. Jantika Kapoor. Sarah Elizabeth Katz. Diva Casey. Khadija Keita. Lena Louise Kennel. Lile Homaserize. Darcy Summer Kim. Goen Kim. Hannah Kim. Minsol Michelle Kim. Hannah Kimura. Sarah Chalimo Kimutai. Christina Thea Kluchnik. Sophia Masako Kobayashi. Eunice Yumin Kong. Brianna Karimi Kome. Emma Kotar. Nicole Kovacevic. Laura Michelle Kowalczyk. Anna Kraftmiller. Sachi Devika Krishna. Ella Hughes Crom. Mira Bohannan Kumar. Leila Kutlucha. Ashley Kwok. Deborah Ann Lacey. Saron Nugushu Lakal. Baraka Lam. Nadia Corinne Deborah Emmeline Lamar. L.E. Lattimore. Anita Lau. Laura Leal de Souza. Alicia Yon Song Lee. Bianca Isabel Jessie Jia Chi Lee. Celis Hannel Chu Lee. Alicia Lee. Emma Lee. Jason Lee. Natalie Nyaihan Lee. Suhan Alina Lee. Yoon Hye Lee. Haley Lee Burke. Erin Lagaki. Pauline Legrand. Alexandra Wanshu Leonard. Nonet Leonhardis Barbosa. Julia Isabel Leslie. Catherine Luba. Zora Marie Levette. Emily Levine. Halen Haley Lee. Mona Lee. Pace Lee. Ashley Liang. Audrey Liang. Anna Sim Lieb. Abigail Lienhard. Emma Serrano Lilienthal. Elizabeth Yoon Lim. Emma Sewon Lim. Alyssa Lima Alvarado. Veronica Lin Yenzu. Cecilia Liu. Elaine Liu. Isabella Liu. Kaylee Liu. Nanji Liu. Lucy Isabella Liversige. Posre Nyung Leung. Arlie Lorette. Emily Serena Mungyin Minka Simka Lu. Mong Lu. Xiaojia Lu. Sunny Lu. Victoria Lu. Ashley Luna Martinez Lopez. Crystal Luo. Abby Luo. Lennon Lupton Mabey. Bridget Elizabeth Lynch. Jocelyn Liu Jinru. Eugenia Ma. Vivian Ma. Gabrielle Moskowitz. Sarah Madej. Valerie Mahar. Bryn Helen Rio Malone. Annabelle Starr Mandel. Hala Grace Mansfield. Emiliana Isabel Marcano. Alexis Marine. Greer Rose Marshall. Claire Martin. Harriet Faith Martin. Marty Martinage. Iris Francesca Martinez. Isabel Maureen Martinez. Ruby Martinez. Annika Matthias. Mila Matney. Juliette Mater. Catherine Ann Matthews Edrington. Mary McConville. Gracie McCooey. Willa Kathleen Wybrow McGough. Mila Claire McLean. Mehana McNay Koch. Monterey Meekum. Sarah Elizabeth Meyer. Insha Shaquille Merchant. Cheryl Emmanuel Chose Minde. Catherine Moser. Marisabel Morales. Catherine Delia Morin. Georgia Moshkiu. Alexandra Mwenge. Anissa Mu. Diana Salinas Murillo. Hana Nagata. Aliyah Nelbani. Juyan Nam. Sinead Gail Nardi White. Emma Nathanson. Ami Kole Ndye. Mela Safani Nebelo. Carolyn Moy Nee. Addie Dora New Schmidt. Sydney Huang Nguyen. Marisi Alexia Nieto. Cassidy Ann Novello. Chloe Oftana. Naomi Carmen Arlene Ogden. Lucas O'Kelly. Michaela Rose Ola. Jada Onwuta. Alicia Sofia Padilla Aguilar. Diana Daniela Padron. Andrea Palmer Ferrer. Caitlin Elizabeth Papagelis. Kavya Parameswar. Christina C.Y. Park. Eugenie Park. Grace G. Young Park. Laura Park. Sharon Park. Victoria Park. Lauren Park. Sorry. Carrington Parks. Okay.
Lillian Esther Coidy Peck. Jenny Peary. Lee Taylor Pendleton. Jillian Pepra Frimpong. Alondra Maria Perez. Destiny Galilea Perez. Brenda Perez Pelaez. Brooke Elizabeth Perot. Isabella Ria Pereira. Elizabeth Petra. Elizabeth Lee Phelps. Parker Francis Phillips. Marion Picard. Nick Pedinano. Jalen Pittman. Coco Emerson Palencia. Edith Yingping Po. Zoe Kristen Puff. Etta Cordelia Pope. Carolyn Prestowitz. Taylor Nicole Naode Quay. Leanne Quainer. Jenny Kichimbo Alki. Elizabeth Quigley. Lamiz Rahman. Maymuna Rahman. Isabella Belen Ramirez. Josephine Ramirez. Antara Vadalakshmi Ramkumar. Chloe Jade Rattay. Elizabeth Huggerman Ray. Mahadurikal Gaitacho Ragasa. Aiden Reed. Josefina de la Luz Reyes Fernandez. Elise Rowe. Haley Rohrer. Miriam Sherman Roberts. Nia Soleil Roberts Kamau. Sarah Elizabeth Rodanis. Carla Rodriguez. Andrea Ronquillo Mendez. Emma Catherine Ross. Emily Sarah Joy Rubin. Ana Mercedes Rubin Reyes. Cristiani Relas Vargas. Liana Peace Rumberger Leffel. Estrella Hasmin Sakalzot Rivas. Noshan Saiyara. Catherine Beecher Salmbier. Andrea Sanchez. Abigail Rose Sandy. Sasha Santiago. Marina S. Santos. Isabel Sathi. River Schiff. Elena Schneider. Susanna Raven Schofield. Alyssa Senef. Caitlin Mary Levins Severin. Maymuna Zora Shafkat. Sarwa Zubair Shah. Vidhi Shah. Riley Sheldon. Gabrielle Rose Piper Shell. Yutong Sheng. Emily Shear. Chloe Shalali. Rachel Rose Shrivas. Mia Ann Silberstein. Emma Sindoni Bonilla. Emma Maddie Slybeck. Melanie Agatha Smith. Avi Solomon. Madeline Spiegel. Madeline Ruth Adams Spear. Dayanashri Srinkanth. Clementine Frances Stark. Vera Isabel Staub. Bella Catherine Steedley. Riley Steinberg. Rain Stovall. Zoe Street. Emma Sophia Sullivan. Lydia Sullivan. Audrey Sun. Bernice Sun. Yuling Sun. Jillian Ray Lynn Sutton. Liana Florence Swarsbert. Kat Elizabeth Swenson. Gabrielle Sudkowski. Mira Tang. Aisha Sarah Tariq. Tessie Tebo. Swelishe Tembi. Anusha Tananya. Chloe Susan Theriot. Connie Tien. Mary Elizabeth Tien. Kathleen Timberlake. Isabella Catherine Chen. Malika Top. Julia Faye Trevelin. Von An Trin. Yekaterina Savaluk. Jessica Wendy Seng. Caitlin Chien. Michelle Tu. Sumaya Akhtar Udin. Laura Sophia Umaha. Nurino Yannick. Adeline Bales Van Buskirk. Saskia Vanderweel. Julia Vargas. Anastasiva Vasilievich. Michelle S. Villagran. Ava Villavicencio. Anna Vogler. Stella Elizabeth Holt Wag. Gabrielle Wallers. Emily Ann Wall. Tristan Wallace. Lucinda Renee Walrod. Adele Wang. Cynthia Wong. Cynthia Wong. Hanyu Wang. Kathy Wong Susijing. Zishek Wong. Madison Grace Weatherfield. Phoebe Jane Weil. Phoebe Weisiker Vallis. Catherine Welsh. Sarah Elliott Wordman. Emma Wickline. Muriel Penderton Wilkinson. Alina Alice Francis Willis. Kaya Coleman Wilson. Emma Lauren Wine. Anya Wintner. Lacey Odessa Wisdom. Belen Wong. Nicole Wong. Ailey Wood. Taylor Nicole Woody. Elizabeth Wren. Ja-E Wu. Roan Wu. Shirley Wu. Yifei Shia Ella. Shaylee Shi. Zihan Shi. Vicky Shu. Amy Schwen. Courtney Francis Yang. Ruyuan Young. Annabelle Yao Yui. Jess Yao. Sophie Yates. Yao Wan Lee. Alice Chi K. Young. Narisa Yu. Hanhi Aliana Yoon. Jade Aliana Young. Madeline Man Yin Yao. Jennifer Yu. Jocelyn Yu. Ashley Wren. Heidi Youngwen Guan. Arena Zadvornaya. Mabel Zawacki. Rahaf Zaza. Yamlak Alem Zagaya. Cindy Zhang. Nicole Zai. Michelle Jan. Amy Zhang. Brittany Sheila Zhang. Chusin Zhang. Emily Zhang. Emily Zhang. Sophia Zhang. Anne Zhao. Sao Kessin. Lepei Zhao. Zishan Zhao. Giannis Zhou. Lulu Zeibenberg. Anna Martin Zamolo. Nabila Zas.
Congratulations and best wishes to the class of 2024. Will you all please stand? It is our tradition to close commencement with the singing of America the Beautiful, written by Catherine Lee Bates. Professor Bates was a member of the Wellesley class of 1880 and distinguished faculty member in the English department from 1885 to 1895. The song has been a feature of Wellesley's commencement exercises since 1942. Kyla Wilson from the class of 2024 will lead us as we all join in singing America the Beautiful. We'll sing verse 3 followed by verse 1.
Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, may God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness, and every gain divine. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plains. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with siblinghood from sea to shining sea.
Thank you, Kyla. That was beautiful. Thank you, Kyla, for that beautiful rendition. Please be seated, and I invite Dean Marquez back up to deliver the benediction.
Dear class of 2024, we close with our best wishes and blessings for you. May you move into this next season of your journey, releasing fear and embracing hope. May the lessons of your ancestors, loved ones, and this community be a guide when you are unsure of what to do next. May you work towards a more just and peaceful world. May you live deeply rooted in kindness and gratitude. Go in peace with our blessings and our love. Amen.